Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Rough Around the Edges Art with yours truly, Sherry. How's everything in your neck of the woods today? Does anybody even say that anymore? Your neck of the woods? Well, if you don't know, it means in your neighborhood. How's everything in your neighborhood? Beautiful, I hope.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Today we're going to continue on with This Is How It's Made in honor of the birthday lady. And I am making Under the Sea and Seashore magnets. A set of quads, a set of 4. This one's already finished. This is an Under the Sea one with resin, pearls, magnet, and yes, real sand. So, I'm going to have to explain through another voiceover. Why a voiceover again? Why another voiceover? Well, it's because if I tried to put in the footage, this would be a 3-hour video. And nobody wants nothing to do with none of that. So, we're going to be able to fast forward, slow down, catch up on key points on This Is How It's Made. You ready? Here we go. Okay, so here I am, and I'm just going to go over the products I used. Pre-stick row of pearls to go around the edge of the magnet. Then I'm showing you the little sea life mold, the starfish, the shells, and the whatnots to go on the magnet, the mold, the circular mold, the heavy duty magnets I was using on the back, and those magnets truly are heavy duty. The sand and the shimmer I'm going to combine to create that shiny sand effect. Now I'm going to grab my parts A and B of epoxy resin, equal amounts. I only created like 1 ounce. Between the both of them, 1 ounce. And I'm going to scrape it out really well, especially the A. The A part is very thick. Well, it's a lot thicker than B. Let's just put it that way. So to keep it evenly, you want to make sure you scrape as well as you possibly can. So now I'm going to begin to mix till I don't see any streaks or striations, till it's clear and not cloudy. Because if you don't mix well, you're not going to have a finished product. It will be very sticky. I wasn't worried about little bubbles because I had my alcohol to help me with that. So now just mix. After a thorough mix, I grab my sand, my sparkly sand, and I pour some in. It's better to pour too little than too much. So I'm mixing it up. I want to thicken it up real nice. And at this point, it looks like applesauce. And I want the consistency of a thick cake batter. So I added some more. And I'm mixing it up again. And I like what I've got. So now I'm getting my little slice of the moon, shimmer powder, mica powder, and I'm mixing that in. And I know the camera doesn't do it justice, but it is really shiny. It is exactly what I wanted for this project. Okay, so now I'm spraying my first mold with isopropyl alcohol and pouring in my mixture. The alcohol just helps with any bubbles. I can also use it for cleaning out the mold, which is what I was doing here. And then I sprayed a little more before pouring in the rest of my mixture. I poured in the mixtures to the level I wanted. And voila, I like what I see. So now I'm just going to set them aside and wait for them to cure. And then I grab my little sea life or seashell mold, make sure it's all clean, get my resin out again, equal parts, A and B. I don't need a whole lot. These are little small starfish, sand dollars, seashells. And I'm pouring them in a little cup again. Make sure I'm scraping my cups out. Very good. Every last drop to make sure it's an even amount. And then I'm gonna start mixing again. Next step is I'm putting in some of my over the moon, or I'm sorry, slice of the moon shimmer powder and mixing it into my resin. And if I'm completely honest, I probably overdid it. But hey, you can never have too much shine, can you? Well, I guess you can, but in my humble opinion, this turned out really pretty. So I'm just mixing it up, making sure there's no chunkiness rising to the top, because sometimes that does happen with powders if you don't mix well. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour it into a large and small seashell and a large and a small sand dollar. My next move is to choose the colors that I want to drop into my sand dollars and my shells. I have 2 conch shells that I want to fill up with the same color as the starfish. Conch shell, whatever you want to call them, that's your prerogative. Potato, tomato, tomato. So I chose, I think, a coffee brown. And I'm just going to take a couple little dabs and put it into the mixture I have left from the seashells and the starfish. And mix it in thoroughly, making sure no powders are floating to the top. Here, as if it needs explaining, I was cleaning up. Now I'm just mixing again. It's a pretty color, I like it. It is brown. On camera it looks more red. It is a reddish brown, but looking at it, it does look very red, but trust me, it's not. It does have a red tint, but it's more brown. Now I'm dabbing it into my starfish. All the way to the top of the mold without it overflowing, and now into my 2 seashells, so the colors will be corresponding. Making sure I use small drips as to not overflow and create a mess, because I'm known for that. Filling in my very last piece that I need with this brownish color. And there we go, it's ready to cure. Alrighty, it's time to unmold. The sand circles were still a little bendy, but it was okay. These are my Seashore. Now I'm unmolding or demolding my little sea critters, my little sand dollars and shells and starfish, and they're so cute. They're a perfect size for these magnets. My little sand dollars, adorable. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to grab my beautiful acrylic paint pens and I'm choosing a color to highlight my starfish. I'm sorry, do my sand dollar first, yeah. Just going in and highlighting. You'll see me once in a while. I'll kind of take my finger and rub over the paint pen, and it's just so it's not so starch white. I know they're white, but just to create a little depth. So that's what I'm doing here. I also went around the edges to add a little more stylized effect. So far, so good. And I'm just going to do the same thing to the other pieces. Okay, now we're on to the finishing touches. I grab my faux pearls, my little line, and I am going along the outside edges of the sand. I'm straightening out the line and firmly pressing them on. If I would have had individual pearls, flat back pearls, I would have probably gone with those and glued them on individually. But these look and work very nicely, creating that finished, complete edge look. And I really like the way it's turning out. I liked them on the under the sea, and it's turning out as I'm doing it right here just as pretty on the seashore ones. They're easy to place. They're easy to shift around if you need to with your fingernail. You can peel them back off if you mess up. and then place them back down, and you can cut them to fit the space exactly as you need to. So, though I usually work with placing them individually, these work just as well. So here I am again, pouring a very small amount of resin. Equal parts, just as before, mixing it thoroughly, just enough. Not even a half an ounce, just enough to cover the tops of the magnets and to flow evenly around the starfish, sand dollar, and seashells. So I'm mixing it again. And here we go. I'm going to gently and carefully pour around the edges. It will also create a doming effect, making sure there's no streaks or striations. Make sure it's clear. Then I'm taking my tool and I'm going in with my silicone brush. It's not a brush, it's more of a silicone point. And using my stick as well and just making sure I have no fish eyes. No pun intended if you don't know what a fish eye is. But it's funny, I'm working on Seashore and under the sea magnets. But a fisheye is where you don't pour enough resin or the resin pulls away from itself and it creates a blank spot. And they're very hard to fix once it cures. What I just set them down on top of is my magnets. I went ahead before the resin was completely dry and placed the magnets on the bottoms of the sand. I'm going back in and finishing filling them up around the edges. And the next thing we'll be looking at is a beautifully cured magnet. Or should I say magnets.